Hello there, everybody. This is Lisa Schulteis with Your Event Marketplace, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Peter Schmidt today. Peter is from Blaze Streaming, and he has many roles there, but the ones he's currently focusing on is he is their account manager as well as their marketing lead. He's been with them for a very long time and has had many roles, but those are the current ones that he is focusing on. So Peter, I just want to welcome you today to our Supplier Showcase series here on Your Event Marketplace.
Thank you. Happy to have the chance to chat with you.
Yeah, it's always fun. So, and as always, we have a great time on these. We get to sit down with people in the industry and just have conversations about what's going on. And, with this particular industry, things are always changing, right? So it's always interesting to see everybody's perspective. But go ahead and tell me a little bit about exactly, what Blaze Streaming does.
Absolutely. I would say the short summary would be prior to COVID, we were a 99% in-person video production team. We focused a lot on large-scale conventions where we could capture keynotes and then stream all that out and then transition from there out to breakout room capture, where we would either record in the room and edit things post-event, or switch them along the way live and then live stream and or quick turn that video. That was the lion's share of what we do prior to COVID. We also did smaller things, sales keynotes, kickoffs. We would do TEDx talks. We did for about 8 years, TEDx Portland, which was the largest one, independent TED talks in the world. And so a lot of things along those lines, but those large conventions were our sort of bread and butter that we added on some of our passion projects and fun other ones along the way. Once COVID hit, as I'm sure a lot of folks listening to this would empathize with, we lost all of that in-person work. It just went away. I was on a show the morning that Portland got shut down and got sent home with, half your check. And so we really used that time as a reassessment and a chance to look at the industry and say, where can we fill in? Where can we meet a need? Where can we take our core abilities, which are fairly wide-ranging within video production, and put those to use for the new reality of where the world is with COVID. And over the next few months, we redesigned a lot of our workflows and really got to the point where we can support virtual and hybrid events extremely easily based on all of those skills that we have as an in-person production company. That may mean something as simple as recording a virtual interview and then adding animations, adding graphics, adding commercials, adding other things to it, and creating a fully featured presentation out of that interview. That can mean taking those interviews or those presentations and adding those to a live event. One of our favorite things that we were able to do was take a large event that would have been in a convention center prior to this and create multiple tracks for that event and then host it on the platform of our client's choice. We always say we're platform agnostic, so any platform that somebody chooses, we have the ability to work with very, very easily. And so for some of our larger events that were live prior, we were able to say, hey, let's do a live keynote, and bring in the CEO from their home with either, a kit that they use, or we would send out a production team to their home, have everybody masked up and socially distanced, but really take the production quality up to really support that. The second part of that would be then replicating the breakout rooms. And that can be either live or pre-recorded. We did a number of those live where, through something like Zoom or vMix Call or Teams or any number of the other services along those lines, we're able to capture both the camera view, like you're looking at me here, as well as sharing the screen. And so a presenter who's used to standing on stage talking to their PowerPoint presentation can do that exact same thing live right there in a keynote, in a breakout track. And we've replicated that in-person experience through either a hybrid or a fully virtual model. The second part of that is to record all of those things prior, do all of the editing, put nice graphics around it, lower thirds, anything like that. And what we would often do is we would have 8 or 10 tracks we'd have an intro graphic, we would play back that video that's say a half an hour, 45 minutes long, and then bring in that presenter or presenters, again, via Zoom or whatever method that they were most comfortable with, for a question and answer time. And they're able to pull all of the questions from the viewers through that platform that they chose to work with via chats, via email, anything like that, and then really use that to interact with their attendees by answering those questions live at the end of their presentation. So those are the big things that we've done. Once we got through and we started feeling really confident with that, we then took another moment to say, what's the next step? How can we, once COVID finally goes away, once we're doing things in person, what are the ways that we can help support, the new normal again? And the two main areas that we've really worked on are virtual hybrid production and then remote crewing. So in the last 2 years, really the technology that we use has grown exponentially. And some of the encoders, some of the off-site ability for us to log into something on-site has just grown so strongly. There's so much better internet infrastructure in a lot of the venues that we're working in these days. And so we've gotten to the point where we can send, a smaller team down to a live event. That team is able to set up cameras, capture graphics, audio, all of those things, and then either send that to the cloud where we can direct it through a switcher that's hosted completely virtually, or that comes back to our studio here in Portland, Oregon, at which point I have a large stable of directors who've been doing this kind of production for the last 15 years, who can take that that camera, that presentation, add in graphics, add in all of those things to create a fully featured live stream from anywhere in the world. So for example, we were doing a large show earlier this spring in London, and the keynote we had planned on doing our, I would call it olden style. It's still a style that we use now, but we had planned on doing it in the old style of having a TriCaster at the back of or behind the stage. All of those cameras, graphics, everything fed to that TriCaster, and having a director create that show from behind stage. We got over there to London, and the main switcher that we had planned to use was absolutely crushed. Somewhere along the way there, it looked like somebody had dropped an anvil on this thing. It was completely unusable. Well, since we do have these contribution encoders that we use, our lead technical engineer took the signals from there in person, plugged them into these encoders. Those were fed up to an Amazon cloud server, at which point we directed the entire thing from about 100 meters away in our workroom. And there was no physical difference to the attendees compared to having done it behind stage. And so that
I remember you telling me about that and me shuddering when you told me that thing was just, completely demolished.
It was shocking. And in 15 years of our company shipping all over the world, we've never seen anything like
I know.
that.
Well, and
so
I think you guys did such a great job in terms of pivoting. And I know that pivot is like the evil word from 2020, right? It was overused.
I've used it way too many times.
We all used it, but it is still the perfect word, right? You guys really took the opportunity to say, okay, our world has come to an end. You and I both talked about that. Mm-hmm. You were on site with client. I was on site in Portland. Portland shut down.
Yeah.
So being able to go in there and say, okay, let's evaluate, where do we go next?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what's one of the things that's made you all so successful is you were able to take that and look at it and say, okay, fine, this isn't working right now, but now we're going to move over here and make this work. And you guys have done a really good job of that.
And I think overall, in general, it's one of the strengths of our company. I give a lot of credit to Joe Christensen, who is our company founder. who I've known for a very long time, and he's always been the kind to not be content with where we are now. Not
Right.
sitting back and saying, hey, we've got a product that works, let's just use it. He's always looking forward to the next thing. Like, what's the next piece of technology that's come out that would make this even better? What could I look forward to? Like, why do I need to do things in the back of the room, every presentation? Actually, I don't. And doing that research and reading what other folks are doing, and staying ahead of that curve, as far as we're not satisfied with the norm, and we're always looking with better, easier, cheaper ways to do it, better quality. And I think that's how we approach any of our partnerships with clients, to where we say, what would you like to do? Like, how can we fit in these workflows to accomplish, how can we make the product that you're able to share even better? And so, like you say, that's allowed us to transition, to continually grow, and find other ways to fit into this industry that we all love so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll take your new word of transition, and we'll change that out from pivot.
I brought up my internal thesaurus and found another word for it.
I know my internal thesaurus doesn't always work. So, obviously you guys were doing live events pre-pandemic, and now you're actually doing all three. You're doing live, you're doing hybrid, you're doing virtual.
Absolutely.
I think you and I have talked to you about, if you ask 50 people in the room what a hybrid event is, you'll get 50 different answers, right?
Yeah, right.
But hybrid really is kind of dealing with two audiences, right? It's dealing with your in-person attendees, and it's dealing with your remote attendees, and what that experience is for both audiences. But is there something that between those three events, I know that you're supporting all three, but is there something that is makes you like one better than the other, or are they just all different experiences, and they're different experience that you guys love to do regardless?
Yeah, great question. It's been interesting to me to hear over the last few years we'll use the transition word again, to people doing more at home, and finding a lot of value in that. There is, particularly with, like I mentioned earlier on in the conversation, the infrastructure in place in so many places that we can allow a lot of our team to work from home. And I think that's been really, really valuable. I think it allows for a good work-life balance. And so that's something that I'm really, really excited about, in that, instead of, like we've always done, prior to 2020, sending a team of 6, 8, 10, 12 folks out on site, being gone from your family, being gone from your day-to-day life for a week and a half. We don't really need to do that these days. And we're so familiar with all the ins and outs, and we've got this wealth of experience for this type of event, that we're really confident to the point where we can send out, say, 3 or 4 people tops. And these are engineers. These are the folks that really work well on site with our partners. And we send all of this back to like I said, to our studio or to a virtual switcher in the cloud. We record everything in triplicate, generally speaking. And we have that ability to still get just as good, if not better quality from on site, while supporting, a team who, instead of now 2 or 3 times a month, is going out once a month, and we have that ability to respect the quality of life, to allow folks to still do good work from home, and not have to be gone all the time. And so that's been the real area that I've been excited about, and that Blaze as a company is doing our best to focus on. I guess I would add the caveat to that, in that there is no replacement to me for the in-person meeting. I'm a very naturally social person, and I enjoy being able to talk to my colleagues, to meet new people. And I think there are a lot of times where, you need to bump into somebody in the hallway outside the event that you're attending, and that's the person that you end up working with for the next decade. Those are the conversations that help both you and them move forward in their career, because you just happen to be at the same place at the same time, and you mentioned some random thing, and that turned into a great partnership. And so I definitely have a very, very big respect for that. So I don't think there's ever going to be a time where to me, the in-person goes away. And even mid pandemic, where I'm like, well, we're never going to go back in person again. No, we are, as humans, social beings. We need to make those connections. And so I think there will always be that need for in person. And I think hybrid is to me the middle ground of all of that. There is place for fully virtual. There are times when that is definitely the right answer to the question of how do we share our content. But to me, and the reason why I'm proud of how Blaze has approached this is that, like you said, we can do any of it. Do we need to send out a 10-person team to create an event? Okay. We have that capability. We've got a wealth of experience doing that. At the same point, we could accomplish the same thing from a different matter, or from a different tack, with doing everything virtually. So
Yeah,
being
I
able to
agree.
do all three is amazing to me.
Yeah, I think, people always ask me, when are live events coming back, and two, what's the future of events, right? And I always say, yes, live events are absolutely coming back, because it is that socialness that we all need as human beings. And it is that, I make some of my best connections at live events.
Absolutely.
And it is in the hallways, right? It is walking the exhibit floor. And so we have to have that. But at the same time, I tell every single client that I have, you need to plan for hybrid, right? You need to plan for the fact that you now have a segment of this population that they want to attend remotely for many reasons, whether it's because they're introverts, because their company doesn't want to pay for them anymore to go and travel, or maybe they have little kids. And it's just easier for them to be able to stay at home and still be with their family, right? So we have to be able to provide that either way. I think one of the things that makes Blaze unique, and you've already touched on it, is the fact that you are able to sit there and evaluate a situation and maybe say, you know what, instead of sending 20 people, let's still give you this amazing event, and we only have to really physically have 4 people on site, right? I think as a AV production house and video production house, it's one of the things that has always been, if you look in the history, it's always been, okay, well, we have to have 30 people, 50 people on site, right? So I think that really makes you guys unique, that you're willing to look at that and say, okay, what do we really need, right? Who do we really need on site? Who do we need remotely? What's one other thing that just really makes, Blaze streaming different than your competition, that makes you stand out?
I think something that came up while you were sort of going through that last bit was, we have never been sort of the audio side of things. We definitely have always focused on video and streaming. And so it's one of the reasons why we wanted to go down to Infocom this year, because we see a really good sort of synergy and partnership with AV companies that are used to doing everything on site. Some of our best partners are the AV companies who are providing, all of the audio, the projectors, the staging, the lighting, all of the infrastructure, if you will, to create a live event. And while we have many of our producers who are very strong and have a background and knowledge of that side of things, we really don't want to step into that realm. And so for Infocom, for a lot of the folks that we met there, for example, I can walk in and say, look, you're an audio company. You do all of that for the show. You do that part. Let me take what you create and share it everywhere else. You're a lighting company, or you're a, whatever it is, you are the producer who makes that happen on site. I really don't want to touch that. I want to be able to take the video and the live streaming and taking that event to a final platform of recording all of that and sharing it, with your attendees for the next year in, little bits in social media, in, a video catalog, all of those things. I think where Blaze has really set itself apart is saying we're not fully inclusive, and we do that very, very purposely. We focus very distinctly on streaming, on video recording, and on getting that content to the platform. to make sure that it lives on in perpetuity. And so I think that's exciting to me, because I can have these conversations with AV professionals and say, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I want to take this aspect off of your plate so that you can deliver great content in person, and then I can take care of the rest for you. And then their client, comes out all the better for that partnership.
Yeah, and I think focusing on that niche has been really important for you all,
Yeah.
and it really is what has made you successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really allows you to just be really good at what you're good at, right?
Right, exactly.
And not try to do everything. So I think
Exactly.
that's a really, really good point. All right, last question for you. So, as we are progressing through the events industry, the events industry has always been an industry that's constantly changing, whether we're talking the event itself, whether we're talking technology, whatever. The last 2 years, that has dramatically shifted and changed even faster, right? I've never seen technology turn so fast as we have in the last 2 years. But whether we're talking about the industry itself, whether we're talking about maybe in actual, events themselves or technology, as we're moving forward, what do you see as the one thing that people really need to focus on, that they need to really be paying attention to as we're moving forward through this?
I think we have a really good background as an industry of putting on shows, of planning and implementing and creating quality live shows. To me, I think thinking social media, thinking TikTok, thinking a lot Twitter, thinking a lot of society's tendency towards like short form consumption. I think that's something that a lot of events and a lot of companies aren't paying a lot of attention to. And so something that I've tried to think about is saying, how do we get a hook into our ideal attendees, mind to say, I need to know more about this, because, more often than not, even for me as somebody who works, in a video production company, who works in long form video, I rarely will watch long form content. How often do I actually sit down and say, I'm going to watch this hour-long presentation on, X? I don't, which is odd to me. Like it's an odd sort of balance of, I believe in that form, and yet I don't consume it that much. And so a lot of what I've been thinking of, and a lot of what I think companies need to do is sort of twofold. Number one, planning prior to your event, how you're going to share this with your attendees, how you're going to get more attendees, and then how you're going to make sure that your content lives on just past or past just the live event. And so to me, that goes to, taking, let's say we do a breakout room where you've got, 4 sessions, and they're talking all about like really the meat of your industry, any given industry. Since, like I just admitted, I don't watch a lot of that, hour-long presentation if I'm not actually physically sitting in a room for something that I've paid to go to. How can I, as a company, as a presenter, make my content intriguing, interesting? Where's that soundbite? And so a lot of things that I've thought about is, I want to offer a 30-second blurb of the highlights of that, to where the presenter says, this is why you need to know it. It's going to change the world. And then this is how you do it. 30 seconds done. I want to put that up on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Twitter, on, all of these places. So, and then I want to have a little text blurb that does the same thing. And then from there, I want to go out and say, okay, here's a 5-minute version. This digs in a little bit deeper into it. And then the ideal being, I get that hook in there and somebody says, wow, that was amazing. And then maybe I then go and look at the 5-minute version and really dig into it and say, okay, well, that wasn't quite it. But now I'm here, and now I can go find another 5-minute version of that other talk that this expert in their field did. And that's fascinating. That really, hits to something that is applicable to me. And now I'm going to go buy or I'm going to go to the website to find where that hour-long version is, and I'm going to sit down and watch that. And that in my experience has been the way that I have really engaged with content, because I won't, like I say, go directly to that hour-long thing. It just doesn't happen for me, you know. And yet, as a producer, as someone supporting content creators, that content is so absolutely vital to get out to your attendees, to get out to the people who are interested in whatever it is you're doing. And so to me, it's that pre-event marketing to get your event out there, to have content that supports that. Getting into the live event, whether it's live in person, whether it's hybrid, whether it's fully virtual, but then really finding ways to utilize your content in ways that will really resonate with folks. And like I say, to sum it up in just sort of a short version, culture these days feels to me that we are consuming smaller and smaller, you know, bits of content. And yet when we are interested in something, and when we you know, chew on that one bit that we saw, we get an appetite for it and we want to know more, you know. And I think if you can create those really intriguing little bits, transition up to like, hey, that was interesting, I want to watch 5 minutes, and now I've got to go find out the hour because this is really changing my view or really teaching me more. I think that's the best way that we've seen recently to really take something live and turn it into something that's going to live on, as well as create, you know, viewers and attendees for next year's show.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that we have to start including events as part of our digital marketing strategy.
Yes.
It has to. It has to be part of that customer journey where we're trying to get them to an end goal, and using our events as content not only on event day,
right,
but throughout the year, is really how people are going to start, you know, building those relationships with their customers and their potential customers. And you're right, and using that content over and over and in smaller snippets leading up to a larger portion, you know, is really going to be important. And not a lot of people are looking at it that way, and they really need to be. They've got to start including that in their digital marketing.
And what better way to create great content rather than, you know, sitting down at your computer and say, I need to write some great content. You've got it built in your event. You know, you've got a wide range of your experts in your industry, in your company, sharing this amazing content. You know, so rather than just sitting down and say, I need to write something, I need to make a video for it. No, we're doing it. Like, we've got a week or we've got 3 days or whatever it is of amazing content. Use that, like utilize that, like build on that for next year, you know, to turn it into a blog post. You know, there's so many ways to utilize that information, that content that you've created to really push, you know, everything forward within an industry. Yeah,
repurposing content's great. You know, as a speaker, I would much rather talk for an hour and then have somebody take my video and chop it up into bits and pieces, right? And be able to utilize it and have some of those nuggets that we're sharing, to just give people that intro and that taste, right? And really kind of get them hooked on, okay, now I need to look more into this. So I think you are absolutely right. And it's such a great way to use content beyond the you know, the walls of the event. So Peter, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always. You and I also have great conversations, but it has been an absolute pleasure, as always, to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
For those of you who want to learn more about Blaze Streaming, what they do, whether they're a great fit for your event, you can definitely learn more on their listing. I will have a link to that below the video here, and you'll be able to connect directly with them and ask any questions that you have of them. But again, Peter, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. I know how busy you all are. And as always, it was great talking with you.
Absolutely. You as well, Lisa.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next video.